So I'm Jon Harding, and I'm from Huntsville, Texas. Anybody know where Huntsville, Texas is? I didn't even know Huntsville, Texas existed until I got a call from some random people in Huntsville, Texas, and I said, oh, that's a place. So now I live there. I am the college pastor at University Heights Baptist Church, and so this is my family. So this is my wife, Danielle, and then Lydia is about to be 3 months old. They're both here with us in the back. Lydia's about to crash out. So, Lydia, do you want to say what church you're from? I'm just kidding. No. Anyways, yeah, so, hey.
Active participation.
Yeah, exactly. She'll grow. Actually, we had two people come in. I'd love to hear name and where y'all are from.
You got it.
Whichever wants to go first. Ashley.
I'm from Waco, Texas.
Wake. Highland.
I'm Oliver. I'm from Waco, Baylor, Highland.
Love it. Love it. Well, I want to talk about, we're talking about time management today. Oh, you guys didn't go.
No, don't even worry about it.
No, I'm gonna worry about it. We have two people. Go ahead.
I'm Lucy. I go to HCC, but I'm transferring to UT Austin.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay. Welcome.
And I go here, Houston First Baptist.
Love it.
I'm Raquel. I go to Houston Christian University, and I go to this church, Houston First.
Love it. Love it. This is what William Penn said. Don't know when he said it, but this is what he said. He said, time is what we want most, but what we use the worst. Time is what we want the most, but it's what we use the worst. You likely came to time management for a number of reasons, but maybe odds are, college, young adult, that you came because you think you need help to some extent in time management, or you're just like, I could do better. If you're like me in any way, odds are you came because in your day-to-day life, you feel like you're a slave to the urgent things that are going on, right? You've got a test coming up next week. You've got a class at this time, my shift starts then, and you just feel like you're jumping from the next thing to the next thing, the next deadline to the next deadline, the next person's expectations to the next person's expectations, and that gets old really quick. And so when you do that, you think your biggest need often, or your biggest problem is time. We think the biggest problem is we don't have enough time. If only I had 25 hours a day, 26 hours a day. Anybody watch Harry Potter in here? Right? So Keontae's like, if I only had Hermione's little time turner thing, right? Like, if I could go back and do all the things I need to do, my life would be fixed. So we're going to talk about time management, and I don't have it figured out. My wife, Jenny, maybe Lydia could tell you all that in the back. But I think that there's a conversation that we can have that I think will be fruitful for you, that you can take home with you. So let's do this. Let's get a survey of the room. So what I want you to do is I want you to think on a scale of A+ to F- from August to December, how would you grade your time management, right? How you manage the time that God gave you from August to December. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about a grade, and then you're going to turn to the person to your left or right, just one person, and you'll be so bold enough, I hope, to share your grade that you gave yourself and kind of why you gave it to yourself. So I'll give you guys about 2 minutes. Think about your grade. You're going to share it. You're going to share why, and then we'll come back together. Ready? Break.
I showed up late to here anyway. I showed up the other day as well. Just gonna have a good time. I think it was good, but there was a couple of weeks where I was like stressing to get I would say it's hilarious because I got to that thing where I would literally have a whole day where I could literally do all of my work, and then the next day everything was due, and I'd be like, why is there no time to get it done? And it was literally this day before it was is exactly like that.
Like, I want it to be, well, I don't know. I go with like, when you have time, like, I see it, let me see what happens.
All right. Here's what I'm going to do. Thank you for being honest and bold to share. Let's do this. If you gave yourself an A of any variety, would you raise your hand? If you gave yourself an A plus, A minus, A of any variety, raise your hand. Are you sure you did and you just are afraid to like raise your hand? Seriously, nobody gave themselves an A?
Second half of the semester, I did.
Oh, okay. So Jenny, if you would please leave this way. All right, how about this? How about a B of any variety? B plus, B minus, okay. Solid. Okay, love it. How about a C? A C of any variety? So the majority of the room. How many were like C plus? Who is C plus? Who is C minus? More C minuses? Okay, cool. All right, here we go. Let's keep going. Anybody gave themselves a D of any variety? Just 1, 2. All right, what was that like TV show of choice? Like, that's crazy. All right, anybody have an F? Anybody have an F?
Yeah, raise your hand.
This is a Kai. What was your pitfall, man?
Just like the moment the semester started, just like all of the time just eluded me.
Yeah.
Like that just keeps spinning and I don't know what it's telling me, most days.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, this is supposed to be offered twice, so
okay.
If it was offered twice, I would have told you probably should come twice, but we only have so much time. Hey, so here's a disclaimer. Most of you guys already know a good deal about time management, right? Like odds are, you may not believe this about yourself. I believe each of you could probably stand up here if you had the confidence to do so and tell everybody some time management principles, right? You could share with somebody, hey, if your friend came to you and said, I'm really struggling with my time, I know each of you could have something to share with somebody. You have something to give. You have a question you could ask them. So I'm not interested in like repeating the same talking points, but let's just go ahead and get them out of the way, okay? These are acknowledgments that we need to talk about that AI probably could have told you. Okay, so the first one is everyone's time management needs are different. All right, if you're a bio pre-med major, or if you're getting the MRS degree, your time management needs are different, right? Like you have different things. If you're a student athlete, or if you are a musical theater performer, like there's different needs there. There's different kinds of weeks. Your weeks look different. Your job, like maybe some people in here work jobs while at college to pay for college. Like your time management needs are different than somebody who's getting their tuition fully paid for from scholarship or from their parents. Your health, right? Like some of you might have health conditions that like make you go slower by necessity or make you go faster, or like your time management is affected by your health and maybe your tendencies. The stereotypical one is we got procrastinators, right? And what's like let's just go ahead and identify yourselves. Who in here is on that end of the spectrum? Procrastination. All right. Okay. We need to identify the other side of the spectrum, okay? So I have my own philosophies. What do you think is the opposite of a procrastinator?
A rusher.
A go-getter, a rusher.
Good student.
A good student. That's crazy. Okay. Any others? Try hard. That's a good one. Yeah. Planner. Who said that? Yeah. Okay. I think of it procrastinator, and then I kind of lump it to like perfectionist overachiever. right? They're like, achievement's not wrong, but you're doing it for the wrong reason, it seems. And so we'll talk about that. But your tendencies, right? Like, nothing I could change about me would make me less of like, I'm a procrastinator. I don't know what that is. Like, it feels hardwired. So that doesn't make you like impossible. It doesn't make it impossible for you to manage time. It just means your needs might be different. So the second one is there are an endless amount of time management principles, right? Like you could use a number of different tools. And there's not a specific one that's perfect. You got to find the one that works for you. Today we're going to talk about one in specific. The third thing is you should probably be using a calendar, even though you're not going to stick to it perfectly, even though it takes forever to keep up, you should be using a calendar. So that's just like obvious. And so if you're not, you probably should be. The fourth thing is that your quality of life improves as your social media intake decreases, right? Your quality of life improves, right? Wow, crazy. It's going to improve as your social media intake decreases. And the last one is a lot of things probably would be fixed if you knew how to say no. These are things that your friends probably, one of these five, like you guys probably share this with your friends, share it with yourself. But let's talk about this last one for a second. How often do you guys hear people talk about this, like knowing how to say no? A good amount, a little bit? What do y'all think?
Good amount.
Good amount, yeah. So I think that this is killing college students, but I do think that this advice means nothing. Like teaching someone how to say no. I think that this advice means absolutely nothing if people don't know what to say no to, right? Like if you think about it, you're actually better at saying no than you think. I'm really, really good at saying no to eating like a salad and like eating foods that I know are good for me. I'm really good at saying no to serving when I know I should be at the end of the day when I'm tired, right? I'm really good at saying no sometimes to meeting with the Almighty God instead of choosing to invest in things that are just for mind-numbing entertainment, right? Like you're better, you know how to say no. It's more like we don't know what to say no to is the real problem, which is kind of why I want us to take a little bit of a different approach. So the title of this is Budget Your Life. And so when we think about money for a second, when we talk about money management, why do we choose to, as Christians specifically, talk about stewardship with money, but we don't do the same with time? Right? We connect money and we connect time together, right? They say time is money. Or at the end of your life, you're going to look back and you're going to wish that you had more time. So we kind of connect them on the basis of value, right? Like time is money because money is valuable, therefore time is valuable. I think that when we talk about time today, I want to encourage you less towards thinking about how to manage it. I'm not as interested in time management as much as I want us to be interested in time stewardship. Okay, I think if it's arguably more valuable than money. And if that's the case, why are we so focused on stewardship with money and not with our time? And so that's kind of a shift that I kind of want you to lean into. So here's kind of two mindsets we can have. The first is a management mindset, which is going to say, I need to focus on how to best control, right, to use Ricky's movements from last night, how to control all the moving parts of my life. And really, I need to use my time in college to make the plans I write down come to fruition, right? Like, what am I trying to make myself into? So that's a management mindset. Whereas stewardship says, I need to focus, first and foremost, on how every day and every breath comes from you, God. And I need to invest my time to best represent, best reflect you, best glorify you at home and on the frontier, wherever God sends me. And so these are two mindsets that we can have. And so I bring this up because I don't think the conversation around time management is as fruitful as it could be, right? Because that implies that we know where we're at with being able to choose the right things in our life. So James 4:14 kind of puts all of this into perspective. I think it gives you all the motivation you need to invest in stewardship. James 4:14 says this, "Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be. For you and me are like vapor that appears for a little while, then vanishes. Every day, every breath comes from God. We believe this, yes? So if we believe this, the way we view our time should change. So this is all setting up a tool that I kind of want to give you. But what all that we've talked about so far, it leads me to believe this. The problem before you guys, the problem before college students, the problem with your friends, the problem with your campus is not that you're not able to manage time. I think the problem is that there's a crisis of priorities. The real problem is there's a crisis of priorities. Meaning, there's a crisis of knowing what is truly important in my life and what's not important. And so, college life, if it's going to do nothing else, it's going to force you to understand your actual priorities in life, because it's just you, right? You know your priorities. And so, I want to give you a tool that I think is going to help you battle this crisis. Do we have any history majors in the room? Okay, good. All right. Anybody take A-Push, though, in high school? Okay, you guys might get this. I want to know, who is this guy?
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson?
No. Wait, is that Lyndon B. Johnson?
It's not Lyndon B. Johnson. Good guess.
Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yes.
There we go.
How'd you know that?
I don't know why I knew that.
You knew that, though?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know I got it. I'm a political science major.
That's crazy. Okay, who was Eisenhower?
One of the presidents during... I want to say, is it the Cold War? I don't think it's the Cold War.
He did lead during the Cold War to an extent. Yeah.
He was like a general too, I think.
Yeah, so he's a 5-star U.S. general who was also president of the United States. He ended the Korean War. He kept the Cold War with Russia cold. He started NASA. Like he got a lot of stuff done during his presidency. So he kind of cracked the code on time management. So there's a quote that he had that kind of guided his time management, his time stewardship. I don't know if he was a Christian or not, but this was his thought when it came to time. He said this: "Who can define for us with accuracy the difference between the short term, the long and the short term? Especially whenever our affairs seem to be in crisis, we are almost compelled to give our first attention to the urgent present rather than to the important future." I'll say the last line again. When our affairs seem to be in crisis, we are almost compelled to give our first attention to the urgent present rather than to the important future. And so I want you to do this. I want you to pair and share. And I just want you to talk about, do you agree with this quote? And where are you kind of compelled to give your first attention? Okay, I'll give you another couple minutes. Do you agree with this? Where are you compelled to give your first attention? Go for it.
I know I definitely don't pay any attention to the important I'd say, definitely the urgent present is always on prime. Especially when I think about No, I think that's definitely because this isn't just like the everyday life. Like crisis. Because even then, you really should be thinking more about the future versus just rather.
I wouldn't say that in a crisis context, I would agree with that second chapter. In a crisis, we focus on the crisis. The broader perspective is like the crisis is not
Okay, what do we think? I'd love to hear from 3 or 4 people. Just kind of share what y'all talked about. 3 or 4 people to share. Go for it.
We talked a lot about, like, in the terms of like a crisis context, that we would agree with that last part, that we're so focused on how we're feeling now and the situation now, when like you look at the broader context, like with James, that the crisis is going to be there for like that long.
Yeah.
And so we're more drawn to focus on the present rather than the larger context of the future.
Yeah, for sure.
So I just got an email,
It's a great
and
yeah.
I just started reading it as you were talking.
That's
And then
insane.
I came back once you started reading this slide, and so it literally happened right as you were saying.
Yeah. I'm glad you can recognize that.
Yeah.
That's good. Wait, somebody over here had to raise their hand. Was it you? No. Yeah. Oh. Okay. A couple more.
I was going to say, like, my procrastination hits, and so I understood that everything becomes urgent in the present. Everything is due in the present, so I got to get it done as soon as possible. We can't even think about the future.
No, yeah.
We're doing it now because it has to get done now.
Yeah.
Versus, like, if like, the future is not a thing. It will happen when it happens.
For sure.
And it's the day it's due. Like that. It's due tomorrow, you do it tomorrow. Exactly.
Which makes you wonder, what do we do when things aren't urgent? We'll talk about that. So we got one more person. What did y'all talk about? Did you agree with it?
So, like, the urgent present, like, if you have a paper due at 11:59 on Friday, and you have, like, a full semester term project that's due in 3 months, you're going to work on the paper that's due
For sure.
on Friday rather than the project that's due
Yeah.
in a couple months.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do the project that's due in a couple months, 5 days before it's due.
Yeah.
Or two.
9 up.
I usually
Or if we're being honest, you do it 2 days after it's due because you have the penalty. Because you procrastinated.
Come on.
That's my man Zakai. That's his way. All right. So what this shows us is his words come back to a question of priorities, right? So in your day-to-day life, you have to make questions to prioritize the urgent present or to prioritize the urgent future. And so because you have to face this tension, because I face this tension, I want to introduce you to something called the priority matrix, okay? This is called the priority matrix. And so my hope is that this is practical for your life. That's something you can take home with you. And so what this tool is going to do is I want you to, as we're talking about this, think about all of the activities that you have going on in your life, right? When it comes to tests, jobs, school, family, relationships, friendships, all the different things, right? Think about your activities. And I'm going to give you some space at the end to kind of maybe apply this to yourself. But what this is going to do is it's every task in your life is going to fit in one of these 4 quadrants, okay? And so this is quad 1, quad 2, 3, and 4. So I want you to know this. This is how I arrange my to-do list on a daily basis. Like every activity that I think about goes in one of these. On my Apple Notes, I have a couple reminders at the top, and then I have quad 1 and quad 2. And this has changed the way that I do my day-to-day life. And it's because of this cat right here. So what the matrix is going to do is it's going to force you to answer 2 questions about every invitation you get, every text message you get, every phone call you get. It makes you answer, is this important? And is this urgent? Is this important? And is this urgent? So based on your answers, it's going to fit in one of 4 places. But before we talk about this any further, let's get definitions on the same page, okay? So urgency is all about now, like right now. There's an imminent deadline. When I'm watching football with Danielle, to her pleasure, she just loves when we watch football all day, all right? And something crazy happens. A guy snaps his ankle in half, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, his ankle just snapped. And I hate that actually. Okay, I don't actually love that. But it literally happened. And I'm like, babe, you gotta watch this replay. It's about to come up. Because the replay is gonna come about 6-7 seconds after the ankle snaps. If the producers don't have ethics. Anyways. And so there's an imminent deadline on Danielle. You got to watch the replay. It's about to come up, and after it's gone, it's gone. I could rewind, but I'm going to be petty and pout because she didn't respond to my urgent invitation for her to watch what's going on. Urgency is all about now. So there's imminent deadlines, and what happens is urgent things act on us. Does that make sense? Urgent things, deadlines, immediate deadlines act on us, okay? Every time you get a phone call, that phone call is acting on you, right? It's an urgent thing. You have to either say accept or decline, and that pressure is now thrust on you. Like, you don't really calendar for that. And so you have accept or decline, or now you have the fancy like little preset text messages. Does anybody actually use those? Like, in a meeting, I'll call you right back. Right? Like, yeah, you use it? No? Occasional? Yeah, there you go.
I use it ironically.
Ironically? Wow.
I'm like,
it's like to get somebody back for like not scheduling a phone call?
I'm like watching Netflix and I'm like, in a meeting, call you later.
That's crazy.
And my mom's like, excuse me?
And I think, does anybody else do this, like where you're meeting with somebody and then you're like talking to them and while you're like face to face, you're talking and all of a sudden you get a phone call and say, hang on, I need to take this really quick. Like, what you've done is you've prioritized the urgent present, maybe than the important future in that relationship, in that diner, in that caf, wherever you're at. I don't know why I said diner.
They said calf instead of cafe.
Caf, like cafeteria. Yeah. Y'all not eating the calves in college? I don't know. Dining hall. There you go. So if urgency is all about now, importance is all about results. Importance is all about results. And I think it's important that we get these definitions. So if it's important, it means that it has crucial consequences, right? So my decision to cover the faucets before I left my house and drip the sinks in case it got really cold while we were here, that had crucial consequences. If I don't do that preventative measure, there's crucial consequences of my whole house could flood and we could lose all our money trying to fix our house, right? That's an important task. So when I'm thinking, okay, is this important? Is this urgent? Is me covering my faucet important? I think we can all agree, yes, right? And so, important things require initiative, and we have to ask the question, does this line up with my mission and with my values, right? Or ultimately, if we're followers of Jesus, this is going to actually really change what it means for something to be important to us. Attending and being a part of and owning and investing in your small group, your missional community, your community group on a weekly basis to a non-believer, is that important to them? No, but to you, is that important? Like, that should be like crucial. It has crucial consequences if we don't invest in that way. And so what's important for you might be different for you, but really these are the kinds of things. It's all about results. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about each quadrant. If you're taking notes, you're going to have You're going to have the ability to kind of track it. So we'll go one by one if you want to kind of have the ability to remember some of this information. And before we go any further, there's a hurdle for you to clear. I shared this with my leadership last year, and some of them push back on it because, in their mind, just because something is urgent automatically meant it's important, right? If somebody emails you something, right, and they put urgent, respond ASAP, right? We think they're saying urgent because, oh, it's really important, therefore I need to really get to it fast. All that means is there's a deadline. It doesn't mean this is really important. Okay, that's a hurdle we got to clear. Urgency and importance are not necessarily connected. So let's take a look at each of the four. Quadrant one, the big picture is this. That the tasks and the activities of your life that are in quadrant one are significant results that require immediate attention, right? Significant results that require immediate attention. So these are most times going to be crises or problems. And the reality is these things keep getting bigger and bigger in our life. What do I mean by that? Kind of a picture for this. Who loves the beach in here? Okay, so how many of you guys ever like go deep enough in the water to where you get like hit by the wave whenever it comes, right? I don't know why people like that, but for some reason it's fun to just get like slain by a wave. So sitting in and living in these tasks, like the more like these will only get bigger in our life. So you get hit by that first wave, you're like, oh, that's fine. You get hit by that, but by the time, you have to take time to get up from that wave, and then another wave's coming. And then maybe the waves keep getting bigger and bigger, and they keep hitting you, and it's harder to get back up from each wave. That's kind of what happens when we, procrastinating people or all people, live in consistently focusing on just these kinds of things. So staying here because of that leads to stress, and it leads to burnout. Why? Because God did not make us to always be going, doing things. Like, if we're only here, we're going to see we're missing out on really important stuff that really matters, that may not be urgent. Some examples: studying for a final exam, doing that project that's 3 months away. Another example is resolving a conflict. Your best friend and you are at odds, and it needs to be addressed right then, potentially. If you have a health emergency, right? Something, God forbid, like really bad happens, that's urgent and important. It needs to be taken care of right then and there. And even stuff like leading your small group, right? There's a deadline on that. Because it's urgent, it's now, it's going to come soon, it's coming. Therefore, you got to get ready to lead, or you got to get ready to show up to your discipleship group, whatever it might be. Going to church, right? There's an urgent nature to that. So these are quad 1 tasks. Next, we're going to actually jump down to quad 3, which is this shallow results that require immediate attention. So the reality with these is shallow results that require immediate attention. These are things in your life that are really unnecessary interruptions. These are unnecessary interruptions. And if we're honest, our phones dominate this quadrant. So there's a number of ways that we could talk about this. I'll wait till we get to examples, but the third part of that is not just our phones, but also others' expectations. Like if we're a people-pleasing person, which most people really are, it just matters how bad, like our desire to please people often drag us into maybe unnecessary interruptions. Some examples are smartphone notifications, all right? How many apps do you guys think you have on your phone, like total? 100? 50? Who else is like over 100? Anybody else over 100? I think most people are probably over 100. If you like go to the app tab or whatever, every time you download a new app, what does it ask you on when you open it for the first time?
If you want to have notifications sent.
If you want to allow notifications, right? I was hanging on my father-in-law doing a puzzle, and I kid you not, he had a notification go off like every 2 minutes. And so he was locked into the puzzle because he's that kind of guy. But I'm like, dude, what could possibly be happening? Like Fox News is telling you something's happening every 2 minutes. And so every notification you get on your phone requires immediate attention, or it at least begs you to pay attention to it. But it may have shallow results. Unplanned phone calls, right? These 3 might rub some people the wrong way, but we're going to talk about them. Unplanned phone calls. Your mom might call you because she wants to catch up, and you might be doing something important, and she just wants to sit on the phone with you for an hour and a half, and it's taking up your time that you have to study for that test tomorrow, right? That's an unplanned phone call that might just throw you all the way across. The answer is you got to just schedule it, right? And it's not always going to happen. Like, we got to be realistic. Random social functions, okay? This is when your friend grabs you and says, hey, tonight, 2 a.m., Waffle House. See you there, right?
Yeah, I almost did that last night.
And so again, like, is that absolutely bad? No, but that might be a shallow result that required your immediate attention when something important else might be in the way, like sleep. The last one, helping someone with a favor. Okay, this is like getting randomly dragged into, oh, hey, like, let's just go do this, or like, I need your help with this. Somebody just like kind of dumping a task on you that they need help with. So here's the reality. Some research shows that it takes 27 minutes to get back to our original focus that we had before we indulge in these random urgent tasks. I'll say that again. You're focusing, unnecessary interruption meets you. It takes you 27 minutes to get back to the focus that you had. So what does that tell us? We're losing our ability to concentrate. And another crazy stat is that a goldfish today, a little Nemo, has the attention span of about 9 seconds. The average Gen Z human has the attention span of less than 7 seconds. Nemo has more attention span than you.
Sounds right.
Sounds right, yeah. How do you feel about that? Like, that's accurate? Okay. Just admission. Anybody else like, I don't like that? Like, I want to be able to lock in more than a goldfish?
He's a clownfish.
Is he a clownfish?
It's a clownfish.
Dang, bro. I'm not a marine biology major.
It's a pet fish.
Dang, I was really hoping you'd let me have that. That was crazy. I'm sorry. It's been a while. So, but here's a disclaimer. Let's talk about this bottom one. There's a difference between missionally caring for somebody's needs, right? Like a Good Samaritan moment. There's a difference between saying, I need to care for someone because a need has come up. And also you just being dragged into some random errand of like, hey, I need help grocery shopping, or I'm just stressed out. Like, can you come? And you might need to do something that's actually quad 1. But that becomes quad 3. So I hope you can understand the difference, that this doesn't mean you're so rigid in your life that you don't ever have spontaneity. But let's keep moving. The next one's going to be key. This one's really key because it's significant results, right? So it's important, but does not have a deadline, okay? This is where procrastination people are going to shudder, is during this part. These are significant results that have no deadline. This is what we need the most, but what we invest in the least. These are things that are going to move us towards our goals, move us towards the important future. And if we're diligent here, it's going to prevent that slavery to the urgent, right? Our diligence here, your ability to just get a little bit ahead, is going to help you not be tethered to, bonded to all the urgent things in your life. And so these examples, I hope, just kind of tell the story for you. These are things like time spent with God, pulling away to be with the Father. Like recreation. Recreation is things that are delightful to you that have nothing to do with productivity, right? And so this is really like, I should offer like healthy recreation. Another one is exercise, right? These are separate. Exercise, like taking care of your body, it's like a preventative thing, but it's also an investment. And it's just helpful for all the health. Relationship building, it's choosing to invest in key relationships. And also like studying and working ahead on a large project. And so what's crazy is if you are a procrastinator in the room, we have to be confronted with the truth that just because you and I are meeting all of our deadlines, just because you didn't have a late penalty this semester, does not mean you're thriving. Just because you're taking care of the minimum, you're making the grades, you're passing the classes, does not mean you're thriving. But if you're on the other end, if you're a perfectionist, if you're an overachiever, just because you're embarrassing all the deadlines, does not mean you're thriving. Just because your grades are beautiful does not mean you're actually thriving in the whole sense. It's these certain things don't have deadlines until they do. That's what we realize, right? These things don't have deadlines until they do. Like your decision to invest in friendships, to spend quality time, to encourage friends, for them to know you and you to know them, that has no real deadline, right? It's not all about now. But this becomes urgent whenever you've failed to invest in relationships to the point where you wake up and you feel isolated and alone. And then it's like, I need a relationship now. Your study and work, like really like your project has a deadline, but if we're honest, like that prep, that research on the front end doesn't have a deadline. But it will eventually. Time with God does not have a deadline, except it kind of does, right? Like there is a deadline on when we face God face to face. So there is a deadline there. But missing out on that time with Him leads to us missing out on life now, abundant life now. And we wake up and we recognize that we're far from Him. We miss out on living under His kingship. And so these things matter because they move us towards the important future. Can you guys see that? Like these things are crucial. And the last one is the easiest one to discuss. These are shallow results that have no deadline. This is excessive. This is immediate self-gratification. And the sole purpose of these things is to distract us from the problems and the crises that happened in quad 1. So we asked the question of, okay, I'm just a procrastinator. I'm getting my time done. Like, I'm getting my stuff done, right? And it's just like, well, I'm just living to the next deadline, right? Like, college students have this weird phenomenon where they're not in high school anymore. Anybody a freshman maybe this year? There's this phenomenon that maybe you experience where you're like, oh, this is awesome. Like, high school, I had this stupid homework due every week and then somebody nagging me to get my stuff done. And now I'm on a project basis. Like, I've got 1 week of work and then I'm free, really, for 2 weeks until midterms comes. And then I'm a miserable person to be around because I did not take care of my stuff. And so I'm not going to church. I'm definitely not reading my Bible. I'm not going to invest in relationships. I'm going to eat really unhealthy because I have a bunch of crises in my life. I'm going to destroy myself because I'm trying to manage the crisis that allowed to creep up on me. Where it's just a different phenomenon in college. And so maybe some of you haven't felt that fully yet, but you're going to feel it more and more. So these things, these quad 4 tasks, shallow results, no deadline, they're going to provide short-term help and long-term irresponsibility. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. This is excessive scrolling and browsing. This is gossip and negative conversations. This is binging shows and video games. And I put random reorganization. Anybody just have crises in their life and they're like, my bed needs to go this way. I just need
a crisis. I just said that if you
What's up? Yeah, exactly. Like my office, I had to reorganize it just because I just had to do it. I'm glad I'm not alone there. So you have this tool now, right? Hopefully you have the tool written down in some way. So let's finish by working towards conclusion and application. There's 4 paths you can take coming out of today, okay? The first path is this. You can live a life coming out of here of continuing to just put out fires, living in quadrant 1, until you can escape to relax by random interruptions or just things that just kind of satisfy you, like your social medias and junk food and gossip and negative conversations. Right? This is kind of where most college students live. You can live a life hunting for urgent tasks, right? You're just like a urgency junkie. Like you love just things that matter now. Like I love the feeling of I got to get this done now. So you hunt for them, and they're probably mostly going to be shallow results. And you're not going to have a real sense of what is or isn't important. Like maybe these kinds of people are the kind of people that when it's time to do something, they just do one long to-do list, right? It's like, today, I need to do something with my life. Therefore, I'm going to create on a sticky note or my iPhone notes the little checkbox thing. I'm just going to list everything I can think of. And I'm going to just do one and just check it off, right? Like we just hunt for the urgent task in our life. The third one is investing in hollow things, right? Where we just choose to do things that are not really important and we never actually discover responsibility. Or we live a life of pursuing the important future, right? These quad 2 activities, pursuing that while shrinking, right? Like they're going to be there, right? That deadline, that urgent deadline is going to be there, but we're trying to shrink that and eliminating futility. So you might be asking, this is really cool, helpful, enjoyed it. What do I do with this? Here's just here's just my encouragement to you, right? Here's what you should do. With quad 1, you should do it, right? Just do the paper, right? The Shia LaBeouf, whatever, just do it, right? If that was corny, that's what I would play. So a lot of you guys are really, y'all are experts at knowing how to get stuff done. And so the aim here is not sharpening your crisis skills, but like I said, you're doing these things, but you're trying to shrink how much this takes up your life. And so this is inevitable, but it doesn't have to be dominant. With quadrant 2, you have to schedule it, okay? Quad 1, you do it. Quad 2, you schedule it. These things will not happen if you do not schedule them. These things will not happen if you do not schedule them. So the question coming out of the day is what are you going to schedule? What will you schedule? So we're going to either, for instance, we either schedule sleep. I know it sounds weird. We either schedule sleep. I'm talking to myself right now. Or we end up crashing out because we have an energy crisis, like a physical energy crisis. You just your body fails. So by the time that these things are forced upon you to schedule, it might be too late. So the question maybe coming out today is what relationship, what spiritual discipline, what kind of exercise, what recreation activity needs to make it in your schedule this semester? With Quad 3, minimize, right? These are the unnecessary interruptions. How can we minimize these things? Another way you could treat this is delegating, right? If there's a immediate thing that may not be important to you. So for instance, if you guys are leading in any kind of way back home, when it comes to business, these are tasks that need to be taken care of, but they may not need your attention, right? So if you're leading a small group, maybe, and you're doing everything, maybe ask somebody else to pick up shifts. Maybe ask somebody else to take attendance. Maybe try to pass these things off, right? And the question here is, what are you going to do with your smartphone? Are you going to keep letting your smartphone intentionally distract you and interrupt you? When you're trying to get work done, you can at least do not disturb. But you can go on your phone and say, I don't want you to give me notifications. I don't want you to give me notifications, apps. Hopefully not too many people. You can do those things, right? You can learn the habit of you're allowed to decline a phone call, right? You're allowed to do that. So there's a lot of strategies you can do to help ignore the urgent things. And if you're a person, this may not apply to you guys, you don't have to check your email every 5 minutes. You can probably check it twice a day and respond to all your emails. The last thing is to delete. This is going to be, maybe you disagree. The Quad 4, you delete. So the difference is, these things you're John, I would never dream of getting rid of. TikTok, right? I need that before bed. It's part of my bedtime routine. Okay. My encouragement to you is still to delete this, but there's a reality where if it's actually healthy, helpful recreation, you can schedule that, all right? This is escape, escape entertainment, escape satisfaction. And the reality is, I know you guys know this, tech companies have waged a war on your time. Their marketing strategies are bent and designed around how many seconds can I get from you. The more seconds I get from you, the more money I make. And so if you know that, you're under war and we're just yeah, sure, you can capture us. Okay, fine, let's go. We should not be as okay with it as we are. And so when it comes to these tasks, another question you can ask is this activity, is this usage of my time stealing affection for Jesus, or is it going to fuel affection for Jesus, right? If it's going to line up with your mission and values, is this way I spend my time in fueling my affection for Jesus or stealing it? So as best as you can, delete it. So I'm done. I want to open the room for a few questions if y'all have any. Anything we talked about, anything relevant to the topic, I may or may not have an answer. Maybe some of you guys in the room have answers for each other. But before we do, I want to end with these quotes. The key is not spending time, but it's investing it. And the key is not to prioritize your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And so I hope that this tool is helpful for you, and this mind shift might make a dent in your grade. Maybe your grade improves this semester. So anybody have a few questions before I maybe give you an exit prompt? Go for it.
Back to the 4 paths, the last one.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Cool. Well, you guys have had a long day, so here's what I want us to do. You guys, it's 3:53. We're not done till 4:15, but you guys we're done. I want to encourage as many of you as possible, though, to write out a matrix, right? Write out the matrices, and maybe to start filling in for you what these tasks are in your life. Think about these, especially what things need to be deleted. What are the kind of things that you're not scheduling, right? And maybe if you're willing to, share with somebody how this semester you want to schedule your priorities and not prioritize your schedule, which looks like Quad 2. How are you going to schedule important things? Okay, so thanks for hanging out. I'll be here till 4:15, and we can talk.